All right, guys, let's start. Discipline without hitting. How is that even possible? Probably already know that this was a spur of the moment thing that I offered to do as a direct response to a video that was going around with the dad who was hitting his kid, and it sparked up this whole conversation. And I like those conversations. I like those conversations because it lets people explain their point of view, and it gives the opportunity to understand why people think the way they do. And from that experience, from listening to what people were saying, even the people that I didn't agree with, what I heard was fear. People are afraid that their children's lives are going to be ruined if they don't discipline them. So when you hear people make plans to beat children that have not even yet been born, you start to wonder that is beating or hitting or physical punishment really about this child and their behavior, or about the fear? So some of the things that we make absolute statements about what we are going to do or not do. I can never let my kids go to boarding school. My kids must go to boarding school. I can never be married to a person who is X. I must marry a person who is Y. All of those assertions, because of my training and expertise, I can tell you that they're not about the topic as much as an underlying fear. So which was why when I said, I hear that parents are scared. And what are we afraid of? That if we don't discipline our kids, their lives are going to be ruined, or there's going to be something wrong with their future. So if we come from that point of view, it's important to recognize that I'm not interested, even remotely, in telling you what you can or cannot do with your children. Let us establish that fact up front. My goal here is not to tell you what you should or should not, can or cannot do with your kids. I couldn't possibly love your kids more than you. So I don't get to tell you how you must or must not parent them. I have a degree in behavioral science. In addition to that, I'm in school to be a therapist, and I graduate next semester by God's grace. I passed my master's comprehensive exams that I took last week. So yeah, I'm really in a good mood because of that. And what that means is that when kids get out of hand, when things go wrong, when the problem has escalated, when there's a 9-year-old Nigerian kid in this America with us, whose dad is hitting with a belt, and who grabs the belt back from the dad and stares him in the face and says, don't. And the father is afraid, like, wow, right? When those things happen, that's when people usually come to me, because I know the interventions that they can use to turn that around. So my work here is to teach you some of these things so that we don't get to the point where they're calling police for us and our children, right? That's the point of my teaching you these things. Not because I'm requiring you to change your way of life or anything. It's nothing to me, really. I honestly don't care. I mean, I care about your kids, which was why in April I did 10 free sessions for parenting in the pandemic, because I wanted to give parents tools to, better like manage the relationship and discipline with all of us being locked down and the additional stressors that brought. And like I confessed to the people who came to those sessions, which there were really very many of you, and I'm glad that you all showed up and showed interest and started to practice those things. I said to the parents, I set up these sessions because I work with children in therapy, and I know that children are getting traumatized by being on lockdown, and majority of the problem comes from being in close proximity to their parents for longer times than has ever happened in a while. And so I care about your kids, but do I care about the choices you make, or if in your village that's how they do it and that's how you insist on doing it? No. So if you came here to fight because you want to prove me wrong, you're in the wrong place. I don't care. Are we clear? I recommend that you listen to me the way I also listen to others. And this is how I listen to others. I'm listening to a preacher speaking, watching a TV show, I'm listening to a webinar, I'm listening to somebody say something. My processing center is on. As they're saying it, I'm saying, oh, okay, yeah. And I'm saying, rubbish, chop. So if I say something and you don't agree with, before you attempt to fight with me or argue with me, let us establish the fact that that's not why we are here. Feel free to believe what you believe. Hold on to the things that you have believed since your forefathers and ancestors. I don't care. My job is to present to you the science, what I know and what I have learned, and hopefully you don't need my services in future when things become critical. Are we clear? So the other thing is that what would we call? We call it like informed consent or just full disclosure. The things that you do with the things that I explained to you, that your choices and your responsibilities. Because I'm offering you this service for free, you don't get to say, oh, I didn't want to do that, but coach was the one that said it, so she's liable. Don't come for me. I'm just trying to be helpful. We're not creating any contractual obligations here. Are we clear? Thank you. So let's jump in. Why are we here? First, like I said, what I'm not here for, I'm not here to tell you what you can or cannot do with your kids. It's just that from my years of working as being a behavior modification specialist, and I've helped a lot of parents. Right now, I am one of the group that I co-run with one of the psychologists that works in the clinic that I work in is with kids who have ADHD, ASD, and maybe a sprinkle of ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. And so because I work with these children like in a clinical setting, I can see what some of the things that parents, as a parent, I can see from the side of the parent, and then I can see from the side of the child what some of these behaviors are that people struggle with. I also teach a group of parents of teenagers whose kids have diagnosis of conduct disorders, so from ODD, and so they have behaviors ranging from extreme behaviors like fire setting, like maybe stealing, attacking other people. And usually what ends up happening is that in order that we don't end up like in jail or in like severe problem behavior or severe negative outcomes, we come to therapy, right? And so we now start to teach some of the things I'm teaching you now after the fact, when these children are already grown, because we are trying to turn around behaviors that have been set. So when I'm passionate about explaining to parents some of the things that they can try, some of it comes from, I know we can prevent the negative outcomes that might be in our future if we don't do anything about it now. So here are some basic assumptions from helping parents who are struggling, and then also as a parent myself. And these are some of the basic assumptions. Parenting can be hard. You thought it would be easier than this, didn't you? Well, I did. And maybe you don't agree, because for you, parenting is really easy. I mean, congratulations. I'm happy for you, but I can't relate. For some of us, it's harder than we expected it to be, and that's just our reality, because there's no manual. We learn on the job. We got years and years of school for math and for stupid things like shorthand and intro tech. Where was I supposed to learn how to deal with a child who's talking back, right? Or to deal with an 18-month-old who is tantruming, or a child who is jumping from my son, when he was my oldest, when he was little, he broke his front teeth like 3 separate times because he would just randomly jump from, and I'm looking at him and saying, are you trying to die or break your body parts? As in, how does somebody just get up? I mean, you are lying down beside a child and then he just gets up and climbs on the chair and jumps down. And I'm like, are you okay? Nothing, no one prepared No one prepared us for this, but here we are in the thick of it, trying to get it done, and everybody's winging it. Because if you ever meet anybody that is a perfect parent, first of all, if you're a perfect parent, feel free to exit the group, because just exit the webinar, because you are too good for us. Just go home and maybe write a book and try to sell it to us or something. But if you are imperfect, welcome. You're in good company, because all of us are winging it. Everybody is just trying. All of us. Everybody. It's just that what some of us have learned, right? We are practicing it, and we now share with other people that, oh, this is what I tried, oh, this is what I tried. Oh. So I'm coming from a point of view of, I know the science, and the science that I specialize in, that I'm board certified in, and that I have a degree in, is an evidence-based science. Evidence-based because data, evidence, facts. I usually tell people who come to my sessions, everything I share with you in these sessions, minus my personal experience, I learned it. I learned it from school, I learned it from reading online, I learned it from reading books. So if I say something and you agree or don't agree, feel free to research it and then go read it and make conclusions of your own. Does that make sense? So don't feel like, excuse me. So don't feel the need to say, well, if coach said it, then it must be true. No, because what if I'm saying rubbish? Right? That's a possibility, because I could be wrong, right? So what I'm sharing with you is evidence-based science. That's different and opposite from eminence-based science, which is when something is true because of the person who said it. So that's when we say, well, my dad said this, so it must be true. This isn't a coach said this, so it must be true. This is science. So feel free to research it, read up on it. And if you don't agree, feel free to chalk the parts that don't apply to you. I didn't invent the science. Everything I'm teaching you, I learned as part of my education and from expertise in implementing these things. And then I'm sharing it with you. Go find the material. I even share links and helpful books and information in my sessions, because the information is out there. The difference, though, is that I know how to apply it. So I can synthesize years and years of learning. I started to go to school in 2012, 8 years. It's been 8 years since I've been studying human behavior. And then I went to get a whole degree in it. So when I tell you I know it, I don't know it just from being a mom. And that's why I often tell people I'm not a mommy blogger or a mommy advisor. I'm a parent like you who just happens to know the science and who can implement it, and who is in the process of implementing it with her own parenting life too, and who just likes to share what she has learned. So we can all agree that the assumption is that it is hard, right? Also, another assumption, which I don't think is debatable, is that parents want what's best for their children. Right? So we can all agree on that children need discipline and guidance, and nobody wants their child to be spoiled. So your concerns are legitimate. Also, you're the one they've been entrusted to, and you're responsible for their outcomes to a large extent. So that's why often when somebody says, you're telling me not to beat my child, when they're spoiled now, you won't be there. I can understand. That's why I tell them, I didn't tell you what to do. The only challenge though is because I live in Texas and because of my job, I'm a mandatory reporter. If you're harming your child and you're being abusive and I know about it, I'm required to report. So I will call, CPS, because I worry about your child and your child is in danger if you're harming them. But you know what's interesting? In the state of Texas, it's not illegal to beat your children. It isn't. So people beat their children. That's why sometimes when people say you're a Nigerian or you're an African or you're from wherever you are, where it's contextually or culturally the norm to hit children, they say you better don't carry all those American ways. You'll be surprised that Americans beat their children a lot, because across board, across cultures, world over, people struggle with not knowing what to do with discipline, and physical punishment is the first thing that comes to mind. So let's keep on. You know your child, right? You're the expert when it comes to your child. I don't know your child like you, right? And also, what you're doing right now, it makes sense to you. I've had conversations about hitting with many people in real life, because I'm always talking about behavior. And if you've met me, I like to talk. That's, obvious. And I'm always I like sharing the things that I've learned with other people, right? And so there are some people that are ready for me. They're like, baby, don't tell me that rubbish. I will beat my child. So, like I said before, you not only stand by your right to do what makes sense to you, you will fight for your right to keep doing it. So if we're all agreed that I'm not interested in insisting that you are doing things wrong and you must do things differently, you can feel free to relax. Because I know that what you are doing makes logical sense to you. Who am I to then say you are wrong? My job is to present to you the science. This is what I usually tell people. If you are doing something and you don't like the outcome, one of the things you should be doing is asking yourself, I don't like this outcome. Why do I keep doing this thing? Is that correct? And so if you're using all the tools that you have and you are still not getting the outcome you like, is it not a good idea to sit down and ask yourself that, this thing I'm doing, is it effective? Are there other ways? So when you've now gotten to that point of saying, okay, perhaps there are other ways I can try, that's when I can now share that information with you. But if you are sure that what you are doing is working and you don't need to adjust it, then that's okay, right? So you know your child. So there are some people that say, you don't know my child. If I don't beat him, he won't behave. And I'm like, okay, right? You know your child. And then also there's this part that often comes up, which is our faith. And by faith, I mean whatever we believe in, whatever we abide by. So your faith or absence of it, because there are people who don't, believe in anything. Those things that you believe, they affect or influence how you parent. So you also have to realize that for some people, because of their faith or the things that they believe in, you're not going to be able to convince them different. And that's okay, right? Also, your culture and your upbringing affects the way you parent. For some people, it is that I was parented right and I will parent like I was. But for some other people, it's like, I hated it, I'm going to do it differently. So keep this at the back of your mind that's a basic assumption for everyone who's present here, and I guess parents the world over. Also, you mean well. For the most part, and I put that for the most part on purpose because we've all seen what some parents have done and we can universally agree that that's rubbish. But for the most part, parents are doing their best. How about now? Okay, so I check the audio. Is it better? Thank you. My husband is my quality control manager here, helping me try to figure it out. All right. So I was talking about how people are really trying their best and we won't get it right 100% of the time, just like our parents may not have gotten it right 100% of the time, right? So here's where the debate usually happens, because people's experiences are different. For some people, their experience growing up was very pleasant, and so they have nothing but feelings of love and affection for their parents, right? Now, for some other people, the experience was different. So when those people come to speak up on the things that they went through or the harm that they suffered, something that somebody says, how long is the session supposed to last? It was supposed to last for 90 minutes. We started at 6:30 and we will be done at 8. So what happens is that for the people who their experience was positive, the only thing that they can think about is, if you dare say your experience was negative, then you are a bad kid. And I want to encourage us to think about it differently, to recognize that my experience may have been positive, my parents may have been great, but that doesn't mean everyone else's was, right? And so if someone says my parents got it right, you don't get to tell them that they're wrong, because it's their lived experience and no one gets to debate that. So whether your parents got it right or not, some people feel, well, my parents tried. Some people feel like they didn't try. That's okay. It's your lived experience and no one, not even I, gets to debate that. But this is what's debatable. People come and say, well, my parents tried their best with what they knew and they loved me. So that makes everything they did okay. So my question is, Should the well-intentioned choices of parents make up for the harm they may inadvertently cause? That's a debate. We're not having it today, but it's just something I want you to think about, right? Should someone ask that the audio be a little loud? I'm turning it off. I hope that helps. Should the intention of parents, because if we have established that parents are trying their best and they mean well, does this mean that everything a parent does, just because they mean well, that should make it okay? I like a comment that someone says intent versus impact. Like I usually say, good intentions don't preclude harm. So the fact that you meant well does not mean that the other person wasn't harmed. So when we say, well, our parents tried their best and they loved us, does that mean then that everything they did caused us no harm and there's no possibility that some of their choices may have harmed us, even though they did the best they knew to do? For example, back in the day, they used to force feed children, and sometimes children would literally choke and die. When children die because they were force fed, did the person mean to harm that child? No. But was harm done? That's the question. So when you think about parenting and the choices that we make, especially in a culture that exalts parents and puts them beyond question, you have to ask yourself that some of the things you believe about your parents' choices, especially when it came to physical punishment, does the fact that they meant well mean that they didn't cause harm? That's part one. And then you now take it back to yourself. Should we expect our children to understand it all later? After all, the things we are doing are for their own good. So should the fact that I mean well for my children mean that I get to harm them, even though what I'm doing is not intended to? That's what I want you to think about. These are just reflection questions. The answer is different for everyone, and you are okay to, interpret it how it applies to you. So that's why we're here. After those assumptions, let's talk about who I am and why I have the authority to be teaching this class or to be telling you what I'm telling you. Bemi Adekoya, Coach G, soon to be LPC and LMFT. I have a bachelor's in behavioral science, and I'm also board certified in behavior analysis. I'm currently a graduate student of clinical mental health counseling with my LPC and LMFT in view. So that's where I have all these expertise and knowledge from. I used to be a crisis counselor on the National Suicide Prevention Line for many years. And I currently work as a coach. I work with individuals and I work with companies who pay me to provide my services to their staff. I do couples, individual sessions. I work with children. And the board certification I have is the intervention that's used for autism. So I have a lot of experience in helping neurodivergent children who have special needs. I used to work at an autism clinic. I consult for a lot of parents whose kids have autism. I do this for a living, and I really know behavior. And so what happens when I provide my services to you is, instead of sending you on a journey of 8 years to go and read and learn all the things I know, I can synthesize that information and immediately see something and tell you the intervention that can work, so that you are not spending all your time doing trial and error with your kids. You can go straight to the point and avoid a lot of pitfalls that some of the people I end up seeing in the clinic now have to deal with. So now I'm going to show you some other very important people. These are my lab rats. I have 3 children who I often talk about. They're absolutely delightful. And here they are. This was supposed to be a boomerang, but for some reason the boomerang is not boomeranging. Like, sometimes children don't do what you expect of them. Even in the boomerang, you can see that children sometimes they don't follow direction, right? So Nathan and Alexis and David, I started practicing the things I learned in school on them, right? Because as I was learning behavior modification as part of, someone says there's something wrong with the audio. I'm not sure why. Is it better now? So I started practicing the things that I learned in school on them, and I found that it worked. And then I started to share it with other people. And so sharing it with my friends and family, and on Twitter too, where I met most of the many people I've now been able to help, and where I've met many of the people who came to this session and who have attended my sessions in the past and who pay me their money to help them. And they fondly refer to me as Jamie from the internet, aka GFT. I really love it. Twitter is a really great place. And I've enjoyed, getting to meet a lot of people and getting to help people as well. Here is a very important fact that I feel the need to clarify before you come for me if you're wherever in public and you see my children behaving inappropriately. I wish I could tell you that my children are perfect and well behaved, but that would be a lie. And I'm trying not to be a liar. They're not. What has happened with being able to parent using the science that I know is that parenting is no longer the stressful experience it used to be. So when you learn the science of behavior, it doesn't mean your children morph into these perfect angels. There are no perfect angels, aka kids, anywhere in this world. What just happens is that you now know what to do, and you can increase the behavior you want to increase and reduce the behavior you want to reduce, aka discipline. So I'm here to teach you what I've learned, not hold myself up as a model of perfect mom. I will make mistakes. I do make mistakes from time to time, and I'm self-aware enough to own up to them. So this isn't I'm a perfect parent, let me show you imperfect parents how to do it. No, I'm telling you, I know behavior. Do my children still show up with inappropriate behavior? Yes, they do. Because, even I as an adult show up with inappropriate behavior, pretty regularly. And so the thing as parents is that we need to make the distinction between our children's behavior and ourselves as individuals. My child's behavior is not necessarily a reflection on me as an individual. I know people will try to shame you for the choices that your children make, but you have to realize that your children are not extensions of you. Or rather, let me speak for myself. My child is not an extension of me. My child is a whole person separate from me with their own needs, desires, motivations, goals, and future. Their choices that they make when they choose to behave inappropriately are separate from me as an individual. In my role as a parent, I have the job to guide them in the right direction. But no matter how much I guide or not guide them, because we all know people who are exceptions to the rules, who it seems like their parents parented badly, and you can see my air quotes because that's subjective, and who turned out great, or people whose parents parented great but who still made poor choices, right? Because you can see like in the same family there will be siblings and one person just goes off this way and the other person goes, because there's more to the way a child turns out than whether or not their parents hit them or the choices that their parents made. Your child is, let me reverse and say that and speak for myself, my child is not an extension of me. So feel free to not come up in future and say, after she's teaching people behavior, see what her children are doing. It doesn't work like that. All right, so let's talk about behavior. Let's jump straight into it. The science that I'm board certified in is called applied behavior analysis, and it just uses the principles of learning to change socially significant behavior. It's called ABA, and it's the evidence-based intervention for autism. Now, let me teach you some key principles of ABA that are kind of like the foundation of the work that we'll be doing together so you will understand it. Every behavior has a function. Every behavior. If I see anything happening, I can categorically tell you that behavior is happening for a reason. So sometimes when our children act out of turn, we're like, why is this child behaving like this? Why is this child throwing a tantrum? If you learn these 4 functions of behavior, it will change the game for you, because when your child or an adult or anyone is doing anything, you'll be able to say categorically that, or at least make an informed guess about why they are doing what they are doing. When you know what the function of the behavior is, you will know the right intervention to increase or reduce it, right? So I'm establishing the foundation and teaching you the things I learned in the science of behavior in college. So behavior occurs for one of 4 reasons: to get something, to get out of something or get away from something, or because it feels good in and of itself. I know I said 4 things and I said 4 things and mentioned only 3, because one of the things is divided into 2, because the modality for when a behavior, the function of a behavior is for attention, and when it is for a tangible item are different, so they are separate. But just think about it. If someone's doing something, they want to avoid something, or the behavior in and of itself feels good. But if they want something, they might want attention, or they might want a tangible item. If you ever take one of my more detailed behavior modification classes in future, I can spend a lot of time going into this and telling you how you can use it to identify specific behaviors, but I'm not going to have enough time to go over every detail. But just have it at the back of your mind, and perhaps if you go over this PowerPoint or this Prezi or this presentation afterwards, you can read it or even read up on it online. Escape, attendance, attention, access to a tangible item, or sensory. So if a behavior is for escape, it means that the person wants to get out of doing something. So for example, I'm at the table and we're about to eat dinner, and I give my daughter broccoli and she doesn't want broccoli, right? So she swipes the food, and then I get angry and I send her to her room. The function of her behavior in that moment was escape and avoidance. Why? She wanted to leave the table. She didn't want broccoli. So she swiped the food, and then I say, you don't have respect. You're so disrespectful. Why did you throw the food away? Now go to your room. The challenge with not understanding the function of the behavior is that by sending her to her room, you have just reinforced the behavior, because what she wanted in the first place was to go to her room. If your child enjoys solitude and you do timeout and send them to their room, you have just helped their life, because that was what they wanted in the first place. So if you understand the function of behavior, you'll know that, oh, this child is doing this thing because they find it aversive, right? And there are interventions for that. But if you don't understand the function of behavior, you just say, why did you throw your food away? Next thing, slap. But that does not change. It doesn't give us the outcome that we want. So it can be, the function can be escape. The function can be attention. If a child wants something, the child knows that if I cry, you will carry me, right? So they want attention. If I want likes, I know the type of picture to post on Instagram. If I post a thirst trap, I know that I might get more likes. The function of my behavior is attention. I'm going to do it more if I get reinforced, right? The third one is access to a tangible item. The child wants something. The child wants iPad, or you go to the store, your child is the one crying in line, saying that you have to buy candy for them. They want a tangible item. If you don't know what the function of the behavior is, and then the last one is sensory or automatic, is because the behavior provides stimulation to pleasure zones in the brain. It might be, imagine if a child maybe has eczema on their skin and they're scratching it, and you say, why do you keep scratching the eczema? Is the function for escape or for attention? No, it's because that thing relieves something. The behavior in and of itself feels good. So when you understand one of the 4 functions of behavior, you'll be able to know the intervention that should follow. So if, for example, you're having, maybe tantrum problems or issues with your kid, and you come to me and you say, coach, this and this is what is going on, then I'll help you figure out what the function is. Then we'll now design an intervention. So when I work with parents, I help them design something called behavior intervention plan, right? Which identifies the functions of the behavior, and which helps us say this is the intervention that should follow it to either increase or reduce the behavior. It's a science, right? So think about the 4 functions of behavior. Research it, take one of my classes, or come to a one-on-one session with me, or a group session where you find a group of your friends that your kids are the same age group, so it can save you money. You come to a session with me, then I prepare what is called a behavior intervention plan for you. Then you implement that behavior intervention plan, and the behavior now either increases or reduces as appropriate. I hope that's clear. The next thing we want to learn about behavior is operant conditioning. Now, this guy, B.F. Skinner, he's like the magician of behavior. He did a series of experiments where he basically found out that the consequence that immediately follows a behavior determines the likelihood of future occurrence of that behavior. Now, if you go online, if you go to YouTube, I have a couple of videos where I explain the science. So I'm not going to take all the time right now to explain. If you search my name, Bemi Adekoya, on YouTube, you can find those videos, Behavior 101, 102, and 103. It's been a long time that I've been trying to share this information for free. It's out there. Go and look at it. I even put a video of one of the experiments I had to do for one of my classes where I was teaching the rat, who I named Chibuzo, how to press the lever. I believe I put the video on YouTube, so go look for it. But what B.F. Skinner basically taught us, his groundbreaking science, which is what the foundation of applied behavior analysis is today, is that he basically said, if you change what immediately follows a behavior, you can cause the behavior to either increase or reduce, right? And he was able to train rats to change their behavior. And so that's what is the theory of operant conditioning that behavioral science is based on today. So there are two things. There are two types of consequences that can happen after a behavior. The behavior goes up, which is it happens more, or the behavior goes down, which is it happens less. So for example, I go to work and they call me out and say, you are employee of the month. I like the job more. I go to work more. I start to go over and above because they appreciated me. That means that appreciation is a reinforcer because it increases the future likelihood of occurrence of my behavior. If I go to work and my boss tells me off and shames me, and I start liking the job less, such that I start looking for another job and I quit, that means my boss's behavior is a punisher. The consequence that immediately follows the behavior that increases future likelihood is a reinforcer. A consequence that immediately follows the behavior that decreases future likelihood is a punisher. If you respond to a troll and RT them and say, look at this idiot, you are reinforcing their behavior. An insult is not necessarily a punisher. What determines if something is a reinforcer or a punisher is if it increases or decreases a behavior. That's why sometimes we are confused by children that they were tantruming, we hit them, and that didn't make that behavior stop. Because for children, attention is attention, even when it is negative attention, because they want to be the center of attention. So sometimes you are using hitting, or you're shouting, or you're yelling, you are trying to use it as a punisher, but it is not a punisher. Someone writes in the comments what makes something a punisher. Please write it so I can know that you guys are paying attention. What makes something a punisher? While I'm waiting for you, I'm going to keep going because of time. So I was telling you about the four. I didn't tell you to write the question. I told y'all to write the answer, guys. What are you doing? A punisher is something that decreases the behavior. That's a punisher. Anything that decreases future likelihood of occurrence of the behavior is a punisher. So I want that thing to stamp in your mind that punishment is not beating. Punishment is anything that you guys are such good attendees. I appreciate you. When it decreases, that's right. That's my people. Decreases future likelihood of occurrence of behavior. That is a point. Thank you, Blessing. Punishment leads to reduction or extinction. Exactly. Decreases. So keep that at the back of your mind. That's what makes something a punisher. Its effect on the behavior is not the pain or how big the cane you went to buy was. A punisher is a punisher because of its effect on a behavior. Does that make sense? So I want you to look at this chart real quick. When I send you guys the presentation, you can look at it in detail. It shows you the four consequences. There are two types of punishers. There's positive punishment and negative punishment, right? And there are two types of reinforcers, positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. So we've established that reinforcer increases future likelihood, right? So what makes something a reinforcer? The effect on the behavior. That's why for some children, you will give them high five and tickles. They will like it. Another child will not like that same reinforcer because to them, it is not it won't increase future likelihood of occurrence. So what makes something a reinforcer? That's why sometimes you buy somebody a gift and you're like, they didn't even appreciate it, because it's not reinforcing to them. It is the effect on a behavior. So what makes something a reinforcer? Just like the opposite of punisher. Yes, something can both be a reinforcer and a punisher depending on the child. It's what determines if it's a reinforcer or a punisher is its effect on the behavior. That's why you send one child to their room and they will cry, and you send another child to their room and they don't care, because it is not the act that is punishing, it is the effect on the behavior. And yes, Azuka, you are right, reinforcers vary from child to child. I need to speed up. There's so much to talk about behavior. You can't possibly cover all of it in one class. Yes, Blessing is right. Reinforcer strengthens a behavior because it increases future likelihood of occurrence. So look at this chart. I want you to remember that I said a punisher reduces, a reinforcer increases. So when you think of positive reinforcer, that means something that increases because you added something. So think of positive as plus, right? And then when you think of negative reinforcement, something that increases the behavior because reinforcer, but because you took something away. Also, when you think about punishment, punishment is something that reduces future likelihood. So positive punishment is you add something, reduces future likelihood. You take away something, reduces future likelihood, is a negative reinforcer. So quick example is in this chart. I would let you look at it. I really want to speed up because I can't go over time. So reinforcement increases behavior if it's positive. So like praise, especially with kids, because this is mainly about parents, but all these principles apply to adults too. I do something nice for you, you say thank you, I'm more than likely going to say thank you. You reply me on Twitter, I reply back to you, you like it. There are people, when you don't reply them, they get really, really mad. But if it was my birthday and I had 300 comments and I couldn't reply anyone, if I reply you, it's a reinforcer. You are more likely to tweet at me next time, right? So that's a positive reinforcer. If I don't reply you, you're very unlikely to tweet at me next time. That means not replying you is a punisher. Does that make sense? So positive reinforcement, something that you add that increases, right? Negative reinforcement, something that you take away that increases. Punishment, positive punishment decreases behavior. So if you hit a child, it will decrease future likelihood of occurrence of that behavior. And if you hit an adult too, right? Also, if you yell at somebody and they find yelling aversive, or like I was speeding, the police officer gave me a ticket. Next time, what is the effect of that consequence on my driving behavior? Will I change my driving behavior after receiving a ticket? Yes. So that means a ticket is a punisher. If you don't think about its effect on the behavior, you can get carried away and say something is a punisher if it pains you, right? So let's say, for example, if I'm very, very rich and I don't care about $250 to pay a speeding ticket, that means next time I will speed. So it's not the amount that makes it a punisher. It is what? The effect on the behavior. So that's why some people, if you give them speeding ticket from today till tomorrow, the behavior will still occur. I see NCO asking a question about recidivism. That's another thing. Recidivism has to do with when people go to jail, do they go back to jail? That's the first example I can think about, right? So people say, well, arrest them, lock them up. It is a punisher. If it is really a punisher, why do people get in trouble again so just they can go back to jail? Because jail is where they found their tribe and their family, and maybe when they're out of jail, they don't have work. So if arresting people and sending them to jail is really a punisher, should anyone want to go back? Why do people go back? This lets you know that human behavior is quite complex. Negative punishment is when you withdraw something. The easiest example of negative punishment I can give is for my kids. Let's say when they were much younger and they used to spend a lot of time arguing about whose turn it is to watch something on TV. I just told them, if you guys argue, that means you're telling me with your behavior that you don't want to watch TV anymore. The TV goes off. Does that make sense? So what I did was I used negative punishment, which is I took the privilege away. So what happened? Did arguing go up or down? What do you think? When they're arguing and I say, if you guys argue, if you are going to keep arguing, then that means TV is going to go away. So I used punishment, but I used negative punishment, which is withdrawing a privilege. The behavior went down. So was withdrawing a privilege a punishment? Yes, because the effectiveness of punishment. Now, let me teach you something that's very important, which we'll come back to in a bit. There's something called inverse correlation in behavior, right? So what that means is that as appropriate behavior goes up, what happens to inappropriate behavior? It goes down, right? So I want you to think about how I said, I told the kids, if you keep arguing, the TV goes off. What is the positive opposite of that behavior? That means that when you come to me as a behavior analyst and you tell me my child keeps doing this rubbish, I hate it. One of the questions I ask you is, what do you want them to be doing instead? Because of inverse correlation, the positive opposite of arguing is getting along or taking turns. That's what I defined for my children when they were younger. That I want you guys to get along and take turns, right? So when I come and look at an intervention, I look at them arguing. I can focus on arguing, or I can say the behavior I want to increase is getting along and taking turns. So what happens when arguing goes down? Getting along and taking turns goes up because both behaviors are inversely correlated. So now I want you to think about that and think about how the way withdrawing access to TV is negative punishment, increasing access to TV is positive reinforcement. I pause there so that it will sink in. The way withdrawing access is negative punishment, increasing access is positive reinforcement. So what that means is that I'm also telling them that when you get along, you can have more TV time. Does that make sense? So when I recognize problem behavior, which is what parents are hardwired to recognize, that's all we see. You people are always fighting. You people are always fighting. I'm sick and tired of it. I'll beat the rubbish and nonsense out of you. You can do all of that. Or you can look at them and say, I want you guys to get along. When you get along, you get more TV time. When you choose not to get along, you get less TV time. Which one do you want? Who doesn't want more TV time? They want more TV time. So more TV time is incentive for appropriate behavior. So I use that as positive reinforcement for appropriateness. So what I'm teaching you is to catch your children being good, because they spend time being appropriate, but we pay no attention to it because isn't that what you're supposed to be doing after all? A lot of parents tell me this. I'm like, when they're appropriate, because you come to me and say, my child is not doing their work, they're not doing their homework. I'm like, is this a new behavior? They're like, yes, it just started recently. So what was happening all the time they were doing their work? And parents are telling me what was supposed to be happening when they were doing their work. They're supposed to do it. I'm like, if you reinforce appropriate behavior, it will go up. It is inversely correlated to inappropriate behavior. Inappropriate behavior will go down. So if you know that positive reinforcement increases future likelihood of occurrence of behavior, why aren't you using it? So let's talk about positive reinforcement. When you catch your child being good, you reinforce that behavior, because the absence of that good behavior is your sleepless night. Oh, it's just like, think about it. If you're in a family and there's one kid that is always getting into trouble, nobody pays attention to the person who is not skipping school, who is not cutting classes, who is not getting into trouble with the teacher, because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. All the energy is for that one child who is getting in trouble. Meanwhile, there's this appropriate children here. Why aren't you reinforcing? And it did not start with us. Think about the prodigal son back in the day. You had this child that was doing everything right, nothing for him. You now had one child that ran off. You're now throwing party. The appropriate child is there thinking that, do I have to be bad to get something in this house? Do you see why a lot of toddlers act out? Because when they are being appropriate and doing what is right, nothing, no attention from you. All they have to do is do one rubbish. Just fling something across the room. They know that you will leave everything you are doing. So sometimes when your children want attention, you're on the phone, you're watching TV, you're doing something else, they will be inappropriate because children need attention desperately. Their attention tank is small. I want you to think about it as a stomach. The way your stomach, a baby's stomach is small and they have to eat every other hour, then as they grow up, that stomach gets bigger and bigger, then they can provide attention for themselves as adults. If you're an adult and you need attention, you pick up your phone and you go on Instagram or you go and post a stupid tweet on Twitter, you will get the attention that you're looking for. How do children get attention? They only get it from the adults. So if they want your attention, how do they get it? Every time they legitimately ask for attention, you don't give it to them. Then you now come and start shouting when they're inappropriate. How else are they supposed to get your attention? When I worked out of town a little bit, I just noticed that small time they will call from school. My daughter did this, my child did this, and immediately that happened, I will leave whatever I was doing and I will come home. I just clocked that the function of this behavior is attention. Because if she gets into trouble, mommy will come home. My daughter wants mommy to come home. So the trouble she's getting in is small, is worth it for the big reward she's going to get. So guess what? The next time she got into trouble, I did not come home. I just called her on the phone and said, well, I'm sorry, but I have another punishment for you. And the behavior, she shut it down because she's doing that because she knows that's what will get you. So that's why sometimes these trolls accounts on the Twitter, they know. So they say something provocative because they know all of you will gather and come and be saying, look at this idiot, look at this idiot. They need the numbers. So what do you do when the function of behavior is attention? You recognize that attention is not the problem. Attention is a legitimate human need. You need it, I need it, we all need it, children even more so. What is the problem is how they are getting it, the inappropriateness. So if a child isn't getting appropriate attention, if their love tank or attention tank is empty, they will look everywhere to fill it. So as a parent, are you filling that tank with attention, especially for appropriate behavior? The appropriate behavior will increase. You're not going to need to worry about inappropriate behavior. But one small inappropriate behavior like this, you have called uncle, auntie, everybody, you have put them on blast because of this whole time they were being appropriate. Did they receive any positive reinforcement? If there's no positive reinforcement, the behavior will not die a natural death. If I keep doing something for you and you never acknowledge me and never say thank you, no matter how good a person I'm, after a while I'll just be like, this one, anything that you do is only complain. You will stop. So it's not just children, it's adults as well. So like I said, punishment is very effective in reducing problem behavior. So somebody's like, so punishment works. It works. That's why if you slap a child, you will reset their brain and instant reset. In fact, I usually joke that it's like a defibrillator. You just put it. Punishment works. In fact, pain is a universal language. It's how we don't end up killing ourselves. Because once you touch a hot stove, nobody has to advise you not to touch it again because your brain has immediately made the connection between that pain and your behavior. So the behavior immediately reduces, right? So the pain, which is punishment, remember, punishment is not the action, it's not the beating, it is the effect on future occurrence of behavior that makes something a punisher. Does that make sense? If you get this fact, we can close this class here. I need you guys to get it that what makes something a punisher is its effect on behavior. It's not beating. The effect on behavior. So if you touch a hot surface, you immediately withdraw your hand. Why? Because your behavior has been punished with pain. So it's not the person necessarily that is the punishment. It is the consequence. So punishment doesn't have to come from a person. So when you say, I'm going to punish you, you don't punish people, you don't punish people, you punish behavior. You punish that behavior, you make a consequence follow proximately, immediately after faster, right? That increases or decreases. I see it came in the comments. I follow a lot of your advice, especially from our time with you in Houston. We do treasure box, so there's no shortage of engagement and attention for the boys. But I find that it's hard to get them to behave. I'm not asking for perfection. I know they are human, but even in school, yeah, because even us as adults, it's so hard to get. Can you see how even adults are refusing to stay at home in this lockdown? It's a universal problem. It's hard to get human beings to behave. Point blank, period. It's just that for children, we have different expectations of them because we have structured and put things in place for them. Does that make sense? So we'll talk more about that. That's why no matter how much of these sessions we do, I still often need to do one-on-one sessions with people to say, okay, let's examine, because behavior is complex. That's why it took me a long time to study. There's such things as motivating intervention, as in there's a lot more going on. Then we adapt, and because that's why two children can grow up in the same household and have completely different outcomes. Why? It's not so much the parenting or the lack or absence of structure. There's temperament, there's other things that are going on which we need to examine, and then sometimes there's comorbidities of other. We'll talk about that, right? So don't let me get off track. So touch a hot surface. No one has to ever tell you to be careful again. The pain is the punisher, right? So what happens to you as an adult is that you make the connection between that pain you suffered and the behavior. There's no intermediary between the consequence and the behavior. What happens when parents or adults deliver punishment is that as the intermediary that delivers the punishment, we are now seen as the punisher. That's where our problem is. The punisher needs to be the consequence, not us. And I'll teach you that. Let's go. So you make the connection. So adults know how to make the connection. When you have to pay a speeding ticket, that money that you paid out of your pocket, it hurts. Think about if you don't pay a bill on time and you have a late fee. The late fee is the consequence that makes you now go and put your bills on auto pay or make sure you pay your bills faster in future. It's punishment and consequence, and it's universal. You don't brush your teeth, your mouth smells, you go out, people laugh at you that your mouth is smelly. That social consequence is punishment. Next time, you brush your teeth because you've made a connection between the negative consequence that you suffered and your behavior. That is how human behavior is shaped. Does that make sense? Let's keep going. How would you define a proximate punishment? One of the principles of punishment is that it must follow closely with the behavior. So you don't want to deliver a punishment and deliver it next week. The person doesn't make a connection. What makes punishment effective is its connection to the behavior, right? I see a question from Tominawa. How do you punish a pinching and biting behavior? In fact, you guys, because of the feedback from the classes, the parenting in the pandemic classes that I had in April, I literally went and created specific classes, group classes that I can teach in small groups to cover specific things. I created a class for toddlers. As we get to the end, I'm going to show you that information and you can go and register for it. How do you punish lying? You see, all these specific target behaviors that you have, they are the things I will teach you in the small group, so that we'll have a small group, because we can't teach, I don't know how many of us are here, but we cannot teach all of us specific interventions for each individual kid. That requires a specific thing. So I want you to think about some of the concerns you have. After this session, when I show you the information on the classes you need to register for, pick a class that applies to your need. If there's no class, put the information, send me an email and say, Coach, create a class for this thing, I will teach it. So how do you punish a pinching and biting behavior from a 20-month-old? Attend the tantruming class. I created a tantruming class specifically because that's one of the most common things people talk to me about. Let the child feel the pain of the behavior instead of the pain of the punishment. Yeah, they feel the pain of the punishment because it's that punisher that reduces. Do you think praising an appropriate behavior in one child can act as a negative punisher for an inappropriate child? Absolutely. Let me give you an example. All this time I've been teaching my kids. When we come back from school, I created a designated place with hooks. Hang your backpack up and your jacket. Put everything here. My children will come inside. Put shoe here. Put bag here. So after saying it over and over again, I realized that my telling them over and over again was not a punisher because the behavior didn't reduce. So I now noticed that I had one major culprit. So we came in one day and I saw two people hang up their backpacks. One person didn't. As the natural human being that I am, even with all my behavioral science education, I wanted to face the person. So I was ready to say, I just caught myself and said, can you calm down? Why are you shouting? Are you okay? What's the problem? Can't you regulate your emotion? So I calmed down and I looked at the two people who were being appropriate and I said, you guys, I'm so proud of you. It means that what I've been telling you these days about putting your bag up, you've been listening. Go and bring treasure box. The people who put their bag up have treasure box. Notice that I did not address the person who put their bag on the floor. So I addressed the two people who were appropriate and I reinforced their behavior. Guess what happened to the person whose bag was on the floor? They got up and quickly went to carry it. They now came to me with my treasure box and said, can I have treasure box too? I've put my bag up. I was like, oh, no, you can't have treasure box because you put your bag up after the fact. Perhaps you can try tomorrow, okay? And they looked at me like, okay, I'll do better. I didn't shout, I didn't yell, I didn't scream. I just positively reinforced the people that were being appropriate. And immediately the other person, it's just like when they wake up in the morning and you see them and say, oh, wow, you laid your bed. Good job. I really like that. What do you think is happening to the other people who didn't lay their bed? Gather your energy for appropriate behavior. Don't use all your energy for inappropriate behavior because pause. I'm going to pause and take a drink. You guys, I get excited when I talk about behavior because the thing is sparking in my head. So just wait. Important fact. What you give energy to is what will increase. If you give more energy for positive behavior, inappropriate behavior will naturally fall apart. Will it happen? Yes, but now you know how to address it. Does that make sense? Because what you want to increase is positive behavior. So when you see a child being inappropriate, immediately ask yourself, what do I want them to be doing? Does that make sense? So you get down from the car and your child immediately takes off and runs. Before you say, stop running, don't kill me, and give yourself hypertension, high blood pressure, you say, walk. The day you catch them walking appropriately beside you, say, good job walking. Wow, look at you, following directions. I like that about you. You see their heads swell. Children, they are so simple. I mean, they're also complex and annoying, but when it comes to using positive reinforcement, they are so simple in that it takes only a little bit. Their head will just swell. You see a child that hasn't been paying attention, they have difficulty like staying in front of the screen, especially this one that they have been doing online learning. Then you walk past and you see all of them there quietly doing their work. Do you say, that's what they're supposed to be doing? Or do you say, wow, see my children just sitting quietly doing your work, acting appropriately? I'm so impressed. I think I'm going to give you guys extra 30 minutes of screen time. Do you think they are going to do better or do more? In your office, they will give bonus, reward, all those incentives. They know how to incentivize you as adults, but here you are, you don't want to incentivize children because you think that they will be spoiled. You better use positive reinforcement to reduce your stress because there's a direct relationship between your stress level and positive reinforcement. I'm going to go up in the comments a little bit real quick. 1 second. We're running out of time, guys. We have 20 more minutes and I will stop at exactly that time because that was the goal I set for myself. Positive reinforcement. Somebody said, how long should positive reinforcement last? Forever and ever and ever. Forever. Because you're creating a positive environment in your home and in your life. So somebody says, how do you punish a child with health conditions such as autism and ADHD? I created a class for children, for parents with special needs, who have children with special needs, for neurodivergent children. You use the same principles, but you use it differently. Attend that class. That's all I can say. I can't cover all of autism and ADHD in this class. So register for that class and attend it. Do you think, let me see. Somebody said, I have a website where you can go and purchase the course. Yes, I'm going to give you that website information. You have to purchase the courses. When is it appropriate to punish a child? I'm trying to get you guys to focus on positive reinforcement, and all the questions are about punishment. My daughter is 14 months old. Remember, punishment is what follows the behavior that causes it to reduce. Life is already punishing. It's not necessarily you. So what I can teach you is how to remove yourself as the punisher and let the child's consequences teach them the punishment. But I need us to not be so punishment focused, because what are we punishing? I mean, are we punishing a specific behavior? She's hitting you with objects. Very good. I know the interventions for that. If she's 14 months old, you can come to the toddlers class. Somebody said this works with my kids. I'm trying to catch up with the comments, guys. Please be patient with me. We're running out of time. Whew, I'm sweating, guys. I'm sweating. Do I have classes for domestics? I'm not sure what that means. Perhaps you can elucidate. Somebody said, how do you do that if you have only one child? Unfortunately, there's no way to use differential reinforcement like I described with the kids for one child, but there's definitely ways to use positive reinforcement for one child. What of an only child? There are ways to use positive reinforcement. I don't want you guys to think about, oh my God, I hate this, it won't work for me. Think about, oh, what can then work for me? What then happens when you have just one child? Guys, I'm sorry, but in a case where one child sees you reinforced by rewarding and instead becomes jealous and nasty to the other child, then that's a separate behavior, because sometimes the side effect of punishment is that other negative behaviors will occur. So you can address that. And a way to address that is to level and talk with them and say, do you feel bad that your sister got it and you didn't? I understand, I would feel bad too, but you have the opportunity to try again, okay? I love you. Let me tell you, the best magic you can do is implement punishment in a calm, loving manner with love, because you are not the one punishing. It is the consequence that the child gets that is punishing. So you are not a wicked witch. You are this loving person. So sometimes I wake up on Saturday and I tell my kids, oh, wow, today is about to be a really, really chill day. What do you guys want to do for fun? You want to jump on the trampoline? Then we are going to take a walk later. And you guys are going to watch TV. Awesome. So those are your rewards. What are you going to do to get it? I will finish my chore. I'll sort the laundry. I'll fold the clothes. I'll make sure I put all the dry dishes away and wash. I'm like, awesome. So when you guys are done, come and get your screen time. So it's a loving environment because they know that their rewards, their reinforcers, screen time, all the things that they get it after they've completed appropriate behavior. So that is positive reinforcement. Not that you come and say, you these children, you did not clean this house. You're just shouting up and down when you could easily have made access to TV contingent on completing the chore. So when they come and say, I want TV, you say, you do? Okay, I'm ready to give you TV. Have you finished putting the toys away though? They're like, you're like, and when you're ready to get your iPad, finish putting the toys away. When you continue doing what you're doing, you are calm because you know, because they want iPad, they will complete the chore. I don't have kids yet. I'm excited to learn. I'm happy to teach you. I love teaching this stuff. Does this apply to neurodivergent kids? Yes. Remember, ABA, the science that I'm board certified in, was specifically designed for kids with autism. I just hacked that you could apply it to neurotypical kids. And so now I'm teaching parents of neurotypical kids and neurodivergent kids as well how to use it. So yes, it was specifically designed for, oh, how can I apply this on adults? ABA works with adults. At your job, they are using ABA for you. You just don't know. Why are they giving some people employee of the month? Why are they giving people bonus for performance targets? Everybody is using ABA. Even the government is using ABA for you. If you pay a bill on time, you get 20% discount. That's ABA. Your desire for the discount will change your behavior. ABA is universal. In fact, they use it as a field in psychology called organization behavior management. Oh, guys, I'm struggling to catch up. I'm trying to read the comments and not miss any. I'm sorry. How long should positive reinforcement last? Forever and ever and ever. Your goal as a parent is to create a loving environment for your child. So positive reinforcement should last forever and ever and ever. Except if, some people like the whole soldier system. But that's not my style. Is positive reinforcement or praise not too much sometimes? No, it doesn't get too much because positive reinforcement is not, oh, you're a good boy, you're perfect. Positive reinforcement says, I see you doing that well. Good job. So it's specific. So that means the more they behave appropriately, the more they'll get it. There's nothing as too much. It's just like I go on Twitter and 100 people say, give me, I like you, give me, I like you, give me, I like you. Does that mean I'm getting spoiled? No, it just means more people appreciate me. So whatever it was they were appreciating me for, I'm more likely to do it. Unfortunately, if it's inappropriate behavior, then I'll do it more. So praise, there's no such thing as too much praise. Children don't get spoiled by too much love. Do I have, what age do principals apply? From the beginning of their life, forever and ever. There's no child that is too young. Do I have a class for parents who are ADD? Yes. So sign up for the neurodivergence class. How do you feel with a 3-year-old that seems to want to self-destruct? They probably have so much energy, they don't know what to do with it. I remember one time we took my younger son to the ER. This was a week after he had bust his head open and he had to get stitches. The following week, this child stood at the playground, took a swing, an empty swing with nobody in it, pushed that swing, and that swing came back to his forehead, and his forehead burst open. And then we now ended up at another emergency room his forehead burst open the previous week, then his lip burst open. And while we were waiting for them to attend to us, this child was climbing on the chair and he was upside down. And I looked at him and I said, why can't you just sit? Why are you, didn't you just get hurt? Are you trying to get hurt again? He said, well, why are we here? Do we live here now? Are we going to be staying here forever and ever? We've been here for too long. And I said, this is a waiting room. You wait to get treated by the doctor. They need to fix your bleeding mouth. And my child said, I'm a mover, not a waiter. And that day it just clocked for me that this whole time, because I used to joke that he behaves like a can of Coke that wants to be popping. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, he was climbing on this chair here. And I looked at him and I said, is there a reason why you're climbing on this chair? And he said, I have a lot of energy. I need to let it out. So I said, do you want to go to the backyard and jump on the trampoline? So if your kid has a lot of energy, then you want interventions for appropriate expressions of that energy. They're not bad kids because they have energy. They're supposed to have energy. If they were lethargic, you'll be the one that is driving them up and down, that my kid is not moving. Are all forms of beating considered bad? We'll get there in a little bit. Please, do you have a mailing list for those of us not on Twitter? Yes, go on my website. I'll put the information. It's behaviorcoachg.com. Remember, behavior doesn't have a U. Behaviorcoachg.com. It should be in that email. Whatever email you got from a Calendly should have my email there. Go to the website. There's a mailing list that you can register for. And if you registered for this class on Calendly, you're already in our mailing list. Do I have classes for domestic staff like nannies? The principles that you learn for everything is applied to everyone. So just attend one of the classes. How do you use reinforcement to support a kid to stop bedwetting? I can teach a bedwetting and potty training class. So come for that. Both my boys are non-verbal currently. My older son, come to the neurodivergent class. I think that will be very helpful, because when kids are non-verbal, there may be other things going on. How do you practice positive reinforcement for a child you really don't like? That sounds like something we have to do in a one-on-one session, because there are other things going on. Children don't get spoiled from too much love. Thank you, baby. I love that I'm learning from your classes. I think okay, someone says, I think what she meant was your kid will only be acting a certain way around you because of the praises. The appropriate behavior will get high enough that it will soon become a habit. If they're doing it because of praise, then that's okay, because the reason they weren't doing it in the first place was because it didn't come naturally to them. It's just like if your child normally doesn't eat their vegetables, but every time they eat the vegetable, you give them dessert after. Every time they eat a non-preferred food, you give them dessert. After a while, you won't need to give them dessert anymore. But because you want them to eat that non-preferred food, are we saying we shouldn't give them the dessert because we don't want them to be spoiled? This concept of kids being spoiled is something that is a big deal. Someone said I beat my kids way too much sometimes in advance. I hear you. Sometimes children can be, but we will know better. When we know better, we can do better. I'm going to keep moving. I can't cover all of this. So let's go to the real punishments. thing. The effect on behavior is the key determinant. We've already covered this, right, guys? We understand that. So here's the thing. If punishment is effective, we've established that if you use physical punishment, the child will modify their behavior after. Then why are we here? Let's just be using punishment. Here's the thing. I want you to think of punishment as an intervention, right? Kind of like medication. So in psychopharmacology, there's something called adverse drug reactions. That means that you take a medication, it has negative side effects that are worse than what the medication was supposed to cure. And then there's something called a risk-benefit ratio, that if you do something, do the benefits outweigh the risk, then it makes sense to do it, right? That's why there's something called risk-benefit analysis. So let's talk about ADRs real quick. A drug is used for its therapeutic effect. So like, for example, if you are prescribed a medication for high blood pressure, one of the common medications for high blood pressure, I think losartan or something, I forget. One of the medications for high blood pressure, one of the side effects is a dry cough that can get really, really bad. So they give you lisinopril, that's the medication. They give you lisinopril. If you get a really, really bad cough, then they say stop taking lisinopril because of these negative side effects, and they try another drug. So when you think about that in terms of using punishment as an intervention, thank you, Chineye. When you think of punishment as using an intervention to reduce behavior, if that medication has a negative side effect, will you say, well, it reduces it, I'm going to continue using it? Think about some of the common practices. They used to force feed babies. But when we found out that it has a negative side effect, did we discontinue the practice? Does it mean that the good intention behind the practice is now no longer valid? No, we found another way. So babies used to be force-fed. There was a time it was popular to shake babies. Babies used to sleep face down. But when we found that sleeping face down can increase risk factors for sudden infant death syndrome, so babies started sleeping face up. We changed that when we found out the side effects. So you need to ask yourself that, okay, if this thing has possible side effects, why am I still using it, right? So that's where I'm coming to you from. That what are some of the risks of only using physical punishment or always using physical punishment? Look at this list. Is a lot, and I'm going to get through it because it's really, really important. These are some of the side effects that end up with children being teenagers and being lost because we thought we were helping them, but we were alienating them. So one of the risks of using physical punishment is models aggression. Let me give you a common example I use. If you have two kids, an older one and a younger one, soon enough, the older one will hit the younger one for taking their toy or for not sharing or something. So this is what we tend to do. We take the older kid, then we take them and we take our hand, because some of us say, I don't flog my children mercilessly like those videos you see on the internet. I flog them mildly, just a mild spank on the arm. So you take their hand and you say, I told you, you don't beat people or use force on them just because you are bigger than them and they've done something you don't like. Awkward. Is that not what you are doing? Somebody did something that you don't like. Your child made a choice that frustrated you, and you put your hands on them, and you are modeling that behavior to them and telling them that that behavior is wrong. How? The child's whole brain is already confused, because you are saying, don't put your hands on others, and you are putting your hands on them. They don't get it. Why are the requirements for children different from the requirements for adults? Like we were saying in the class last week, we gave an example. What's a common thing that your 2-year-old does? When the tablet is not working or the iPad she's getting frustrated because of internet, she flings it across the room. So child gets frustrated, child flings iPad, right? Parent gets frustrated by child flinging iPad. Parent flings hand and connects hand to child's face and gives the child a high five on their face. So parent is allowed to be frustrated and react based on that frustration, but child is not. I want you to think about that for a moment. We expect emotional self-regulation from children that we as adults don't have. How many times have you beat your kids and say, and I've said I won't be beating you, these children again? No. You don't want to, but you can't check yourself. Why? Are children not allowed to get frustrated? Are they not allowed to get sad, mad, or angry? If you are allowed to put your hands on them when they're sad, mad, or angry, why aren't they allowed to put their hands on other people? So we send them into the world and say, you're not allowed to do that, but we are doing it. Where did they learn it from? Where? And we are saying we don't want, then we are surprised that our children are aggressive. Where did they learn it from? We are modeling aggression, and then we are shocked that they are growing up into adults that have no control, that will off their shirt and fight in public. So they can see their parents putting their hands on each other, but they are not allowed. So where do you draw the line? Is it when you are 18 and a half years old, or when you are 21? We are perpetuating cycles of abuse because we say these children don't listen. You don't listen either. Who is allowed to beat you? Are you telling me that in spite of how you were trained and disciplined and everything by your parents, are you always making good choices? The other day, we were talking about a kid lying, and I said that kid lied because they were afraid that they were going to get in trouble, right? If a cop pulls me over now and says, were you speeding? What do you think I'm going to say? Yes, I was speeding. Of course, I'm going to say I wasn't speeding. Why am I allowed to lie? Because I'm afraid of getting in trouble. And a kid isn't allowed to lie because they're afraid of getting in trouble. Because we have expectations of kids that are not realistic. So we need to reality check our expectations. If you are allowed to feel frustrated, then your child is allowed to feel frustrated. They are capable of the full spectrum of human emotion, just like you. Unfortunately, like you, they don't have the skills or the words to communicate their emotions. A 2-year-old does not understand the feelings that are going through their body. So they will literally throw themselves on the floor because they are confused. Then we will hit them for being confused. Then they end up becoming more confused. Our children have attachment issues now, which correlates with aggression and low cognitive function in future, because we are not checking ourselves, because we don't have self-control, but we want them to. I'm going to run through this list and we're going to wrap up. So physical punishment models aggression. It teaches what not to do, but it doesn't teach replacement behavior. So if a child feels frustrated at 2 and flings things, and you are at this your big age, you're still flinging things when you are frustrated, where was that child supposed to learn how to handle their frustration? They were supposed to learn it from home. You were supposed to learn it from home. You didn't learn it. At this your big age, you now have to unlearn your old behavior and relearn your new behavior. So are we going to unlearn and relearn and teach ourselves so we can give our children opportunities for better outcomes in future? I'm hoping that the answer is yes, because we can reparent ourselves and have better outcomes and give our children better opportunities, because we are adults that don't have emotional self-regulation. We are regularly making choices that we know in our hearts that that's not the choice that we want to make. And yes, we are here talking about, but this child is stubborn. In fact, one interesting one I saw, you know how I told you all to put in the comments when you registered, what are some of the behaviors in your children? Somebody wrote stubborn, 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 stubborn. And I was like, I feel you, I feel you. I feel you, right? So, physical punishment adversely affects the quality of a parent-child relationship. Look, I'm not here to judge anybody who said, my parents beat me and I know it was because they love me and we are still close, but I'm telling you that there's a disconnect. The person who is causing you physical pain and putting their fist in you and putting their fist on you, I don't know what I was talking about over there. The person who is causing you physical pain and putting their fist on you is not the person who you love the most in the world. It's the person who you are struggling with both concepts in your brain. They're like, I love you, but you're harming me. You guys, we love these children, but let me tell you, the number one source of trauma for children is parents. You don't have to try to be the one who's causing your children trauma. So what I'm hoping is that our generation will be the game changer and will be like, you know what, I'm holding myself to a high standard. Let me tell you the reason why I don't put my hands on my kids. because I am the adult in the room. If I cannot control myself, I don't have higher expectations of my children than I have of my own behavior. If I put my hands on my child, it is a reflection of low impulse control. It means I cannot control myself. And even though I would never admit it to anyone in public that I have low impulse control, it is showing in my behavior. So when I lift that hand up, it's not for the lack of feeling of wanting to put my hands on my children that I don't put my hands on my children. It is because, come on. Because we often say, it's because of what they did. They made me angry. Are you telling me that your children are the ones controlling your behavior? So a sibling comes and says, I beat him because he beat me first. Then you say, well, you're not supposed to beat him. No matter what he does, you should have come to report. Then you now take the child and you slap them across the face. You adversely affects quality of parent-child relationships, poor cognitive outcomes. Children who get hit, their brains don't fully develop, point blank, period. Research it, Google it, go read the reports. Insecure attachment, it impacts their mental health. Let me show you that thing that happens when, when a child is flinching, you walk past them all and they just go like this. You weren't even going to go and try to touch them. You were, maybe it was even a loving touch. Have you ever tried to touch your child lovingly and they just flinch? That thing is not cute. African parents talk about it as if it's cute. It's not cute. It's symptomatic of PTSD. Because how is a child supposed to expect, constantly be in expectation of harm and hurt? At home, the safest place for them in the whole world. Children are afraid, are sad now that they are not able to go to school because they are stuck with their afflictors. And afflictors are proving that they are right because after all, I must discipline you. Are we really? What is discipline? Discipline is not equal to punishment. Somebody Google the definition of discipline for me and paste it inside this box. Let's read it. Somebody says, should all expectations of adulthood be transferred to children? I'm sure we don't interact with or expect all adults to. I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry, but it's kind of long. So come to sessions. We'll address them in sessions. Small groups. I can't address everything here. So and then another risk of punishment is that it doesn't produce internal control in the kids. So the children are saying, I will not do it because I don't want my mommy to beat me. So what happens when they're 18 and they go off to college? That's why children go off to college. They had zero internal control. All their control was external because of fear. When you remove that's what happens when you use physical punishment. When you remove the person, they no longer have incentive to behave. If you use forms of positive parenting, your children learn internal control themselves. It's harder, but it produces long-lasting effects. Discipline, the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior. Using punishment to correct disobedience. Is discipline beating? That's the question. Willingness to obey rules or orders. Is that the same thing as, when you read discipline there, is that the same thing as beating? Is it equal to, where did we learn it from? Also, the problem with using physical punishments is that because hitting your children gets you what you want, which might be temporary peace and quiet, or you want them to be afraid of you, you are going to continue using it more because it's positive reinforcement for you. It will increase, which means that you will now abuse them. Because spanking gives you the opportunity to vent. It gives you someone, there was no light, NEPA took light, the generator wire broke, there was first scarcity, you come home, you need somebody to pour all of it on. It is now your children. Then you now say, but I was disciplining them. That's why you just look at children and say, you children are too quiet, line up, let me beat you. I see jokes about that all the time, some of which I know is true. So what are some of the benefits? I wrote these benefits down, and while I wrote it, I was rolling my eyes because I was like, are there any benefits? But think about it. If you beat your kids, then they'll be compliant. Immediately you say something, they'll do it immediately, right? Right? Also, you have bragging rights. You'll be able to go and boast and say, me. They know immediately I appear like this. My children, they just arrange themselves, right? Those are some of the benefits because it makes you look good, I guess, in public. So people can Because, our culture is one that values compliance, because we think good children are obedient children. That's a topic for another day. But are good children obedient? Because it's that same culture of compliance that makes children be abused by close relatives and family members, and they can't tell their parents, yet we are here saying they are good. Compliance. Let's interrogate that idea of compliance. Is it that child's purpose in life to never find expression, to just be good? Is that why you gave birth to them? What does it mean for a child to be good? To never ask questions? Think about those of us that growing up, our parents thought we were good. The idea our parents thought of us and who we are in real life, they are not the same. Sister Gbemisola at home, Freaky G in the streets. Yet my parents thought that I was good. Was I really? Questions for us to ask ourselves. So the benefits of spanking: you have an outlet for your frustration. You feel good with yourself that you are not sparing the rod. Because when I posted this on Instagram, somebody came on the post and said, what you are doing is good, but I'm still going to spank my children because foolishness is in the heart of the child, and the rod of correction will take it away. And in my mind, I said, well, you're already planning for the children that have not arrived yet. You have not born the children. As you are buying future diaper for them, you are buying future king. Well, congrats. Any more benefits? We don't have time, guys. I'm trying to rush through. So do the benefits outweigh the risks? You get to decide that, not me. Remember, you are the expert on your child, and I don't get to tell you what to do. I want you to take a moment as we start thinking about wrapping up to visualize your child on their 18th birthday when they become an adult. Would they have become the adult that you dreamed that they will be? What's your future desire of the type of child that you have? Is it a child that is able to self-regulate and make informed choices from years of practice, or are they only controlled by fear? Is it the child that wears their party clothes under their uniform, and immediately they get out, they take off that uniform and go to a party, and you feel good, at least I've beaten this child and trained them? Can they self-regulate? Or are they regulated by you? I want you to think about it. Is it children that are afraid of what their parents will do? My mom has been dead for 21 years, guys. And sometimes at this my big age, I still think if your mommy should catch you. Is that what's regulating my behavior? Because what happens when you are not there to catch them? How? Think about it. I don't have the answers for you. They are reflective questions. Yeah, that's what Yinka said. Many of us need therapy. I'm in therapy to undo and unpack the things that happen. Now, I'm not blaming my parents. They did the best that they know to do. But just know at the back of your heart that good intentions don't preclude harm. How do you walk around your partner believing in spanking? Both of you should come to a couple session together. If you are not able to tell them, Coach G will tell them for you. It is the work I do. I work with couples and like families all the time. I can even do a family session for your whole family, work with your kids, teach you emotional self-regulation. That's why my license that I'm getting is in marriage and family therapy. It's the work that I do. So what are your options? Because you can't tell people what not to do, just like we tell children what not to do without telling them what they should be doing instead. So people are saying, should I then let my child run wild? Even that one, doesn't it have an... All the comments were read. I'm sorry, guys, there was not enough time. I apologize, but there's not enough time. We are way out of time and I haven't even covered everything. How do you even reason with a toddler or a defiant teenager who has the time to be explaining every day? And like somebody said in the comments, stubborn. Those are things we can learn. Think about it. All behavior is learned. We went to school to learn something. Some things like how to use social media and how to use Zoom and Prezi. We didn't learn it in school, but we learned ourselves. So if I have gone to learn all that information in school, why don't you let me teach you? So if you have all these specific questions, I'm going to put the link. I think somebody even already put the link to the class. You go to that website, I'll put that page up. You choose the class, you register for it. The class can never be as big as this because I have to be able to answer questions. So there'll be small groups. You will register for it. When you come to that class, you will take the topic. If that class has already closed, just be patient. We'll record that class and then you can pay for the replay. The only downside is you will not have the opportunity to ask your own questions. But if there are enough people that request another of that class, just when you fill the register form, on my website. Write the name of the class you are interested in and the topic that you would like. Some people have registered for the class and already paid. I've not even put the link. I'm already getting the notification that somebody has registered for the class. You guys are doing good. Because the spots are limited, I wanted to wait till the end to announce so people could go there after. But I think you guys have already found the way. Everyone, and that's the thing that impresses me about this generation. We want to learn and we want to do better. And I know this science I will teach you. I just can't answer everything here. Wrap this up. So what do? Should you let your children run wild? No, I punish my children's behavior. I just don't harm them in the process. And if I learn tomorrow that something that I'm doing is harmful, I will change it. Somebody says, better soup na money kill 'em. You guys are getting the cheapest soup ever because I charge a lot more, but there were enough people from during this month of April that said, Coach, please do groups. And I said, okay, I'll do groups for you guys. The people who see me one-on-one usually have to pay more. So this is pretty much as much time as I can accommodate. There are other parts of behavior. If you understand the antecedents, then you understand the consequence, then you know what to do. That's pretty much it. And we're going to wrap up now. So go to the classes. I'm teaching one on emotional self-regulation. Okay, somebody has put the link there. So somebody said they wanted a group of friends. Like, so maybe there are 1, 2, or 3 or 4 friends. You have children that are the same age group and you want to work together. Find yourselves together. I'll give you guys like a 20, 30, or 40% discount depending on how many you are. So all of you can come. They said the link is broken. The website has crashed. Guys, I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do. You can send me an email. Yeah, send me an email to arrange a one-on-one class. Because when you do a one-on-one class with you, the site has crashed. So you guys, I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do now. Maybe there were too many people that went there immediately. Guys, maybe we should pace ourselves and try later. I need to get more server space. Guys, don't worry, we'll take care of it. I need to end this session. So if you come to a one-on-one session, I will create something called a behavior intervention plan. You don't get a behavior intervention plan if you come to groups because there's too many people. But if you come to a one-on-one session, so if you find maybe you and somebody have children that are the same age, maybe you are both working on potty training and you find 4 of yourselves, you choose a time, you come to me, I'll create a session for you and attend to all 4 families together. Then I can help you as a group. Professional email is coach@behaviorcoachg.com. I hope that one too won't crash. You guys. coach@behaviorcoachg.com. That's the, thank you, Tomio. I love you too. Okay, people are registering. I'm seeing people registering. So try the Calendly or just send me an email. We'll work it between me and my assistant over the next few weeks. We'll get everybody sorted.